Do you ever have so much to do that you don't do any of it? Do you avoid watching movies in a movie theater? Do you feel the need to take off your underwire bra or your pants with a zipper the minute you walk in the door? Maybe you avoid certain restaurants or the cosmetics counter at a department store because you just can't tolerate the smell. Did you know that your avoidance of or you're resistant to certain tasks or situations could be related to your ADHD? A busy schedule, bright lights, loud noises, crowds, tight and uncomfortable clothing, and certain smells can lead your ADHD brain to feeling overstimulated. And seeing as it is the season for busy schedules, bright lights, loud noises, itchy, scratchy sweaters, crowds, and perhaps strong smells, even the ones that we like, it seemed like a good time to talk about what overstimulation is, how it might manifest itself, and some ways that you may be able to manage what triggers your overstimulation. But before we dive into what is my final episode for 2024, I'd love to introduce myself in case you're new here. I'm Christy Lingo, and I started the ADHD Mompreneur to provide executive function and accountability support to ADHD mom business owners. See, I myself am an ADHD mom business owner, and I've been running businesses for over 15 years. In that time, I've bought a lot of amazing courses and worked with a lot of incredible coaches. And I mean a lot. Then one day it dawned on me that I didn't need to learn anything more or get any additional perspectives, but I needed to start taking action and applying all of the information that I had been learning. And that's why I created my coaching program, to fill an accountability and executive function gap that I saw in the neurotypical business coaching world. A gap that helps ADHD mom entrepreneurs to finally follow through on creating the successful business that they know is possible while juggling their busy mom lives. To learn more about my coaching programs, visit theadhdmompreneur.com. And while you're there, be sure to pick up my free 11 essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs to help you make fewer mistakes, feel more organized and productive, and figure out where you left off. You know, in case you get distracted by kids or TikTok while you're working. So be sure to head over to theadhdmompreneur.com to check out my programs and pick up your free checklist today. Emotional regulation is an executive function, which is why many of us with ADHD, especially during hectic times of year like the holidays, may struggle a bit more with stress, anxiety, and depression. In addition to emotional dysregulation, many of us with ADHD also struggle with rejection-sensitive dysphoria. You know, where we feel emotions and criticism deeper and for longer periods of time than our neurotypical counterparts. But it's not just stress and emotions and criticism that can evoke these heightened reactions and responses. Some of us, meaning me, may experience a lower threshold for stress, anxiety, and depression due to an overload of sensory input, especially when our emotional regulation is already skating on thin ice. Overstimulation and our reaction to it isn't a diagnosing criteria for ADHD and isn't necessarily something that everyone will experience, like a struggle to focus or initiate tasks. But there are certain times when your brain may feel like it's going into overdrive trying to process a lot of information at once. It may be even more difficult than normal for you to decide what to focus on because there are so many different opportunities vying for your attention. And let's face it, we cannot possibly do it all or pay attention to everything. But darn it, most of us ADHDers are gonna try. And in doing so, we may cause additional stress and strain to our brains, bodies, and relationships. And nobody wants to end the year like that. So let's discuss what might trigger overstimulation, how it might look or feel while you're experiencing it, and some ways that you may be able to manage or mitigate damage from overstimulation before it starts. Let's start with some things that might trigger feelings of overstimulation. Tactile overstimulation might mean you struggle if your clothes feel too tight or a tag is rubbing you. There may be certain food textures that you avoid, and you may even have a hard time with physical touch. Visual overstimulation might occur if lights are too bright or if they're flashing. Something like seeing a movie in a movie theater could evoke this response. Olfactory triggers mean certain smells such as perfumes, cleaning products, food, or other humans may cause you to feel overstimulated. Crowds and busy spaces may also feel overstimulating because they combine many of these previously mentioned triggers at once. And finally, multitasking can also trigger an overstimulation response because it's like being in a crowd, only the crowd is in your brain. So what does it look or feel like when your poor ADHD brain is overstimulated? Well, like most ADHD symptoms, it's going to look a little bit different for everyone. But in general, you might experience increased restlessness and an inability to sit still or control your fidgeting, an inability to feel comfortable in your clothes or the way that you're standing or sitting, extreme or unexplainable fatigue and exhaustion, severe headaches and or migraines, and sleep issues. And you might be thinking, well, Christy, that pretty much sounds like my everyday mom life. And you might very well be right. But you also may very well be overstimulated on a regular basis without realizing it. So what can we do to manage or even prevent overstimulation? Let's wrap up today with some strategies to help you protect your vibe and actually enjoy the holiday season or any other stressful, overstimulating times of year. First, identify and manage your triggers. Once you know the cause of your overstimulation, you can put boundaries in place to help protect your time and your energy so that you may be able to keep overstimulation fallout to a minimum. And don't forget that it is perfectly okay for you to say no, which I completely understand as a recovering yes person, how difficult that can be. You can get rid of any clothes that feel too tight or uncomfortable because, trust me, you are never going to wear them. You can watch movies at home instead of going to a movie theater to avoid triggers like crowds, bright lights, or loud noises. You can eat dinner out on a weeknight as opposed to a Friday or Saturday when a restaurant might be more crowded or noisy. And declutter your home, especially your bedroom. Because if the last thing you see when you shut your eyes at night and the first thing you see when you open them in the morning is clutter, it can make it harder to fall asleep and actually disrupt your sleep patterns. Number 2, manage your energy. A holiday party or a family gathering at the end of a busy work week might feel like it's going to put you over the edge. Shoot, even everyday tasks like getting your kids ready for school or doing the dishes can feel exhausting and overwhelming when you add in all the additional holiday activities and end-of-year business owner tasks that you need to do. And while I have an entire episode on energy management that I will link to in the show description for you to check out when you're done with this, I want to give you a quick overview of a handy tool for managing your energy called the spoon theory. The spoon theory posits that everyone has a certain number of spoons, aka energy, for each day. And every activity that you do throughout the day, from brushing your teeth to writing a blog post, requires a certain number of spoons. The number of spoons required for each person to do a task will vary from person to person. For instance, making dinner for me might require 4 spoons, but for you may only be 2. This infographic from Christine Miserando on the Dysautonomia International website gives an excellent example of a day of activities and how you use your spoons. It asks, if you only had 12 spoons per day, how would you use them? Because your energy is a finite resource. If your everyday must-do tasks take 8 of those spoons away and you only have 4 remaining, it stands to reason it may be difficult to motivate yourself to do 10 spoons worth of activities. You just do not have the spoons for that. And seeing as we are in the time of year where there are lots of extra opportunities for you to use up your spoons, it can be helpful for you to start observing how much you actually have left to give. Creating a daily schedule may be helpful for managing your energy because it helps you to see how much you need on a daily basis, where you may need to ask for help, and which days you may need to alter your schedule to make sure you have plenty of spoons left for out of the ordinary activities. Number 3, decompress and get some sleep. Rest is incredibly important during this season of overstimulation. And you might be thinking, I'm a mom and it's the holidays. Rest? Yeah, right. But making time for decompression and trying to get enough sleep when you can will go a long way in helping you to have enough energy for activities, social situations, or just everyday life when everywhere you go feels overstimulating. Evaluate your schedule or to-do list to see if there is anything that you can delegate or delete in order to make time for rest. Ask your spouse, friends, or other family members or hire help if you feel like you're struggling to manage everything. You know how your cell phone doesn't work when the battery runs out? Well, the same is true for you. Pushing yourself over and over when you don't have anything left to give will only lead to additional stress, anxiety, and even sickness. And no mom wants to be sick during the holidays. And finally, talk to someone. If it feels like it's all too much, find someone that you can talk to so that the overwhelm and overstimulation doesn't build up inside of you. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a mental health professional. Just know that pushing your stress and strain down does not make it go away. It just builds up that pressure to the point where it is going to explode like a volcano. Trust me, I have done it more times than I like to admit. Taking care of yourself as a mom during the holiday season isn't a luxury. It is a necessity. Setting boundaries around your time and energy can ensure that you are able to give your best to your family. Getting rest and expressing frustrations helps keep anxiety from building up to caustic levels. Knowing what or when you feel overwhelmed and then planning for or avoiding those situations can help protect you from feeling overstimulated. Do you have a way to manage your overstimulation that I didn't mention today? Feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments below. Or if you're not on YouTube or Spotify, you can email your questions or suggestions to Christy@theadhdmompreneur.com. I'm setting my own boundary and taking a couple of weeks off to spend time with my family. I'll be back in early 2025. So be sure that you've liked, followed, and subscribed to the ADHD Mompreneur so you'll know when there's a new episode in January. Until then, have an amazing holiday with your friends and family and keep making your ADHD journey part of your success story. If you're a business owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time,